Welcome back. This is the Alchemist Nation podcast. My name is Walter Morello, and we get to travel all across the country talking to real estate investors who are successful and looking to get to the next level. Today, I have a very special guest with me. She runs a podcast. She is a massive influencer in the real estate world. Annette Talley. Did I pronounce your name right?
Annette Talley, yes.
Excellent. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
So, Annette, I was actually on your podcast a while back. It makes me want to ask, how did you get into running a podcast? What made you say, I got something to share. I want to interview these people, and I want to be doing it all across the country the way you do. What drove you to start that?
That is a really funny story because somebody asked me probably 6 months before if I ever would do a podcast. We were talking about podcasting, and I said, no way, I would never do that. I'm not even comfortable on cameras, and like my voice, my accent. But it just, I was managing this Facebook group for investors, and I went to this conference where I was learning so much. And I decided at that point, let me do a couple of live videos. And that was my whole point, to do a couple of live videos to share with my group what I was learning. And I just stopped a couple, anybody that I saw on the stage, I would stop them and ask them if they would do like a quick video live with me. And they said yes. So I'm like, okay. So I asked them 3 questions. And I did all this, I think throughout the 3-day conference, I did around 11 videos with different investors from all over the country. And, when I came back home, I was like, I have all this video footage. The audio was horrendous, so I got to improve that. But, they had so much good advice. What can I do with this? So I decided, okay, let me do these, small videos for YouTube. And I'm just going to post them on the group, and then YouTube, blah, blah, blah. And then I thought, you know what? I did all this work. I started creating a logo, the graphics, the marketing. Why don't I turn this into a podcast? And that's when the podcast idea was born, but it was totally not intentional. I never really thought of being a podcaster, but it has been such an amazing journey, and I've met so many amazing people, and I'm so happy I'm doing it.
I love that the story starts off with, I always said I would never do it. So people would say the same thing to me, and they're like, oh, you should do a podcast. I'm like, yeah, no, that sounds like a lot of work. I don't feel like going and sitting in a room. And I like talking to people, and I love learning from other entrepreneurs. And like that part's there, but man, like just the whole concept of having to go do the work behind it seems, very intense. And I know it is a lot of work, right? You've got to go and you got to drop it into, we use Anchor and we use SoundCloud, and then it goes across and it's syndicated. There's a lot of work to getting it, refined and tuned up, and make sure the sound is right. Make sure your guest has their camera on, or make sure your guests, got decent sound. And what is it that you do to stay organized?
What is it that I do to stay organized? So I started delegating a few tasks. And more than organized is just to take off stuff off my back, right? Like I started doing it all by myself. And we were just talking about that, I tend to be the person that likes to do it all myself because I can do it better and faster than other people. But I am quickly learning that to grow, I need to delegate. And even though it's going to take longer, and it may not be exactly what I want, it will get done. And it's more important to get it done than to get it perfect. Some stuff you want it perfect, but for the most part, just getting it done takes you to the next level. So you just have to keep going. So for organization, I use Asana, which is project management task. I'm still early in the process of delegating, but it's working really nice. I tried Trello. I think Asana is a little bit better, but just testing new things, and whatever works for you, just keep going with that.
Yeah, it makes sense. You're an entrepreneur, so we just keep testing things, trying things out, and dialing it in. So you're also a successful real estate investor, and you manage property for other people. How do you juggle all of this? I know we were talking about this, that you are busy, and you're like, oh my God, sometimes I feel like I can't juggle it all. But how'd you get before we answer that question, how'd you get into real estate in the first place?
All right. So into real, it was also a little bit of an accident, a little bit of intentional. So my husband and I, we are both architects, and we were really affected by the recession because there was no architectural work. Like my company went from 50 people to 25 people in like 2-3 months. So they lay off a lot of people. I was saved. I still had my job, but my husband company, he worked in a small company, so they closed completely. So we decided that we could not put all our eggs in one basket, and we had to have other sources of income. And after a lot of talk, we decided that real estate was going to be the thing that we were going to do. And so, we started talking about it and sharing with people that we wanted to do this. Um, and so a friend of mine at work, he approached me and said, "Hey, my cousin wants to buy this property and he needs a manager. Would you be interested?" And I was like, yes. I was 7 months pregnant, but I took it. I said yes. And that changed my life. So, before you say no, say yes. And so then I started managing that property, and my friend and his cousin became my mentors, and then they helped me and advised me to buy my first one, which I wanted already, but I just didn't know a lot about real estate. So we bought our first one, and then we just continue educating and bought second one, third one, fourth one. And that then is when I started doing it more seriously. I decided I wanted to grow and to get into bigger deals.
Absolutely. What was that decision to decide to grow? Because that is a big decision for most people. Most people, they're very happy with where they're at right now. What was it in your life that made you say, I want to grow, I want to be more than I am at the moment?
Right. So I've always been an achiever. I always been the person that I set a goal and I just achieve it. Like I don't stop until I get it. So and I knew that I was meant to do more, but I just never saw myself in my job, in my W-2, like, just being a corporate architect. And I just didn't see myself there. I just knew that I wanted to do more. So when real estate started, it started to get complicated, right? I already had 3 different properties that were 3 different locations, 6 units, and then I had a 16 unit that I was managing that kept me busy. And I realized that there were too many locations, and if I kept going in that route, number one is it was going to take me a long time to keep buying duplexes, and it was going to have too many locations, and it was going to take too much time driving from one place to the other one every time that I had something. If
Yeah,
I had a repair, I had to go to one property to pick up the materials and then go to the other one to fix it. It's just too much. So
absolutely.
I decided I need to buy bigger units. So my first step, I joined a mastermind, and that changed my life also. It was like the next big thing that I did, because it surrounded myself with people that wanted to grow. So for the first 6 years, I was doing it all by myself. I had these 2 mentors, but they also invest by themselves. They don't partner, they don't do conference, they don't do more. They just focus on their stuff. So, they have a different mindset. Amazing people, but they didn't have this mindset of growing. And so once I joined this mastermind, something in my head clicked. And so in the first 6 months, I doubled my portfolio. So I went from 6 units and I bought another 6 units. After buying these 6 units, I realized it's not that hard to buy bigger, so I should have gone bigger than that. And so I decided, okay, I want like a 20 unit, right? And through this search of getting to the next bigger um, project, I stumbled upon syndication, which is like, buying large buildings and partnering with people to do so. And that's when, I went full speed on education, networking, and then the podcast grew, building my brand and my company, and finally landed my first syndication deal with my partners, 194 units in Ohio. And now, uh, I just decided to go full blown with larger properties. There is an economy of scale when you do this. You can delegate so much. You can hire professional managers. You can hire most of it, and you just need to manage the assets. So it is very scalable. And one day I remember thinking, I don't have anything to do today, because like my partners are handling most of it, and I'm just, do my part. And it was so nice to not have all the weight on my shoulders. Like on my properties here in Florida, I do everything, right?
Right.
Marketing, property management, repairs. I have my people, construction, I have my people, but everything depend on me.
Right.
Right. So it was so refreshing to have a team that I can rely on. So I decided, definitely keep growing that way. I still want to buy some stuff here in Florida for me, for my personal portfolio, but I'm heavily focusing on larger properties.
Yeah, I agree. It makes more sense to leverage and utilize the other people in the community. And that is just absolutely amazing that you've learned so quickly, jumped so big. And I know that this is still just you getting started before you really ramp it up. Um, and syndication is been a great move for you, which is really cool. Like seeing you do those bigger pieces. What would you say somebody needs to do in order to start with syndication? If they're going from that a duplex to a syndication, how did you really get comfortable with it? I know you're surrounding yourself in those events, you were taking the training and going, but would you say what was the major piece that made you feel comfortable saying, I'm going to go do 100 units with somebody?
Education. Education. I think, I, for the first time, I invested money on a real estate course. Up to that point, up to 6 years of investing, I had, listened to podcasts on bigger packets. I had maybe bought a couple of books, but I had never gone to a conference. I had never signed up to a course. And, just doing that, but not only educating but taking action of education, action, education, action. So I took one course and I applied as much as I could of that immediately. So even if it was just one action, I would take just that one action and I would see results immediately. So that kept me going. I think a lot of people, they educate, but they don't take action, and then they don't see results, they get bored, and then they move on to the next thing, right?
Yeah.
So my approach is that I don't have to do everything, but I just need to apply one thing that I learned, and that one thing, it will take me to the next step, and I keep going. So I just kind of like made a list of stuff that I had to do, and I just kept going through the list and going and going. And you know I remember posting, like, at the beginning of 2 years ago, at the beginning of the year, the progress that I had made in that year, and I was surprised myself of how much I had done. And it was just one step at a time.
It's amazing what you can accomplish in a year, right? So it's absolutely fascinating just how much can get done if you make the list and take action. And that was your biggest takeaway, I think, was you paid for education, so now you took it seriously. You were getting into a bigger room because the free stuff is great, and you can learn all of the stuff that's in that room in a free event, but the paid events just make you focus more. You've invested, so now you have skin in the game. You got to walk away with something. Whereas a free event,
And
you could, right?
yes, and the one thing is, like, when you pay for an event, and or like even like a VIP ticket, right? You are gonna be networking with people that also pay a VIP ticket. So that these are people that are serious. These are not people that they just want to check it out and see if they like it. This is people that are investing money and that are serious about doing so. So you are networking with people that are
Yeah.
serious. So that will keep you motivated. And I have the mindset, and I always had this mindset, that if somebody else can do it, I can do it as well, right? So if I would see somebody in my group, like a podcast, like, I didn't want to do it, but I saw that somebody did it, so I knew I could.
Yeah.
So when the time came, I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. Like, my friend is doing it, it shouldn't be that hard.
I love that mindset. I'm just going to do it. Why not? They're doing it. I can do it. They're a human being. I'm a human being. We have a lot in common. And I like what you said about events. I do not go to free events. I can't stand them. I'm not interested. If uh, if the ticket is under $50, under $100, I'm not even going to consider it, because that price range is a certain type of person who's just not ready. I don't want to network with those people. If they spent $500 to be there, $1,000 to be there, $1,200 to be there, you get into that $5,000 mark. There's only a few of us. There's only a few of us at these events. And so I know there's money in the room. Those are people we could build businesses with. I'm going to learn from, great relationships, raise capital from. So you've got the right mindset, and you put yourself in the right rooms. We don't have much longer to this. I like to keep these short, but you have you have a website. You got some free things out there. Can you give us those? And I'm going to ask you the three most powerful questions. Well, one
Okay.
question that leaves the
All
three in.
right. So for those of you that don't know me, I have a podcast. It's called Real Estate Deal Closers, and you can find it on, iTunes, on Stitcher, all the places. Like, I have it everywhere probably, and also in YouTube. You can find my channel, Aneta Lee. And also, if you go to my websites, which is Aneta Lee oh, I'm sorry, taliinvestments.com. You can find, I have a free deal calculator. So if you wanna, underwrite a deal and see if it's a good deal or not, you can download that for free. And if you're interested in syndication or commercial real estate, I have a vocabulary that you can download, and also I have a guide for passive investing.
Excellent. Annette, I love that you have all that out there. That's at tallyinvestments.com.
Correct.
Excellent. Excellent. So before we jump off of this, I want to ask you the most important question that has ever been asked to me is, if you go back to your 20-year-old self, go back to the young Annette who's just starting, doesn't know anything about real estate, go back to the young Annette and, at 20 years old, what 3 pieces of advice would you give yourself? If you give yourself advice that would get you to where you are today faster.
Right. So the first one, and we talked about education, right? And if you are 20 and you can only pay the $50 ticket, then do the $50 ticket, because that will get you to the next level. And next time you're gonna do the $100 ticket, and you're gonna keep going. But start with education, and it could be podcast, it could be books, it could be events, it could be masterminds. That is, definitely education is big. The second one, networking. I did not know what networking meant. Like, I thought is you go to an event and you exchange cards and that's it. I didn't realize the power of networking with people that are doing what you want to do, because number one, they inspire you. Number two, they push you. Number three, they give you advice. You get so much. Like, and my podcast is such an amazing networking tool, because for example, we were introduced by a common friend. He said, you got to have Walter in your podcast, and then, we got to know each other. And then, before we were recording, we were talking about, stuff. You were giving me some advice, and I'm like, this is amazing connections, right? So make sure that you network, not only exchanging cards, but following up, going for coffee, going for dinner. Make sure that you create relationships. That's the main thing about networking, creating relationships. And the last one, joining a mastermind. You have an amazing mastermind. I am part of 2 masterminds. It will cost you a little bit of money, but there is cheap ones that you can start, and then you can graduate to the next ones. But just surrounding yourself with people that are talking your language, right? Because I don't have anybody in my circle before that were into real estate. So I didn't have anybody to talk about what I wanted. Like, they knew that I own some property, but they just didn't know that I wanted to be serious about it and I wanted to grow. But when you join a mastermind that is specific to real estate, for example, then you're talking to people that are doing the same. They are, you are learning from them. You're learning from their mistakes. One of my partners on the 194 unit, when I started on that mastermind, he was already raising capital for a syndication, and I saw him grow. And then when the time came and they invited me to be part of their syndication, I knew them already. I knew who they were. So I was ready to jump at the opportunity, because I didn't have to bet them. I knew they were awesome people. I knew that I wanted to work with them. So joining a mastermind is definitely a must.
And those are 3 powerful pieces of advice. And I just wrote down your website again, tallyinvestments.com. So if you want to learn a little bit more about how she's investing, where she's going, what she's doing next, and get some free tools and resources for you if you're on the same investment journey, go check it out. Also, please do us a favor, go to iTunes and write a review for Alchemist Nation. And you can write a review for Annette's podcast. Again, Annette, what is the name of the podcast?
Real Estate Deal Closers.
Real Estate
Deal Closers. Yes.
Excellent. So go and check out the podcast, write a review. It's huge for us because it allows us to get into more people's rooms. We want to get into more people's ears, help them build their confidence, start doing their deals, whether you're doing a single family flip, a condo, small multifamily, or you're doing something as large as syndications, or you're just looking to get your credit cleaned up. Either way, our podcasts are designed to help investors at every level in the game, and we appreciate you listening, sharing, and subscribing. So thank you for your dedication to yourself, and thank you for your dedication to us and learning. Cheers to your success. We have a choice. Always work with the best. Thank you, Annette.
Thank you.